What's up, everybody? I'm back with another James Bond film review, and today I'll be covering Goldfinger. Before I continue, please like this video and share this with your friends. Let me know in the comments below which is your favorite James Bond film. In the preceding weeks, I'll be covering my favorite James Bond films of all time. So, uh, look forward to that. It's fun to revisit some James Bond films. I've been meaning to do so for this channel for quite some time, and I figure through August getting to September is a perfect time to cover James Bond before we get into October, Halloween month, and then the November Thanksgiving family month, and then the Christmas movie review month for December. So I think it's perfect timing to cover some James Bond. Anyway, uh, this movie was directed by Guy Hamilton, not to be confused with the play. Stars Sean Connery as James Bond, Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore, Gert Forb as Goldfinger, Shirley Eaton as Jill Masterson, Tiana Mullet as Tilly Masterson, Jill's sister, Harold Sakata as Oddjob, Bernard Lee as M, Martin Benson as Mr. Solo, Sick Linder as Felix Leiter, Austin Willis as Mr. Simmons, Lois Maxwell as Miss Moneypenny, and Bill Nighy, Mr. Jed McKnight, the gangster who contributions Goldfinger. It's one of the. I'm about to say, is that Bill Nighy? Like, no, different guy. And I think I, pronounced it wrong. But I was about to say, like, wait a minute. Anyway, yeah. I just want to say, because Oddjob is easily one of the most iconic James Bond henchmen of all time. And people talk about, like, there wasn't proper representation in film. And it's like, you get, like, Oddjob is, it wasn't like one of those, like, stereotype, racist Asian depictions. Oddjob is a legit threat. He didn't even have to say anything because, in the movie he's a mute, but it's just like, not only is Asian representation, but also a disability representation, because I'm not sure the actor was actually mute, but the character is a mute Korean guy with a prominent role. And you talk about there's no representation in film back in the day, where it was clearly, a fair amount. Because why it was a fair amount? Because they wasn't trying so hard like they are nowadays. It wasn't trying so hard to make this forced representation. They just had it. The writing called for it organically. Man, Oddjob was dope, man. Like, freaking love Oddjob. But anyway, the movie opens with, of course, James Bond finishing up a mission in Latin America, and he making his way to Miami Beach for some vacay time. And of course, it leads to a cool moment where he meets up with, which I can't believe I blanked on this because I haven't seen Goldfinger in such a long time. And of course, he meets up with CIA agent Felix Leiter, which, of course, in Casino Royale, it's like, oh my god, because he's played, famously by crap, I'm blanking on he most notable actor. Uh 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 Jeffrey Wright. Because it kind of you know was pretty much like in your face, for lack of a better word, Felix Leiter. But of course, you know, I love James Bond, like in terms of the complete lore. I probably know only half or maybe a third of that information compared to most other people who probably like are very deep with James Bond backstory. But it's like I was like coming complete off guard. It's like, wait a minute, Felix Leiter was in this? Uh, but yeah, uh, uh, so he's sent by M to watch over Goldfinger, who just so happens to be at that same resort as James Bond. Don't know why uh, Leiter couldn't be the one to be running the show, but I guess he's working with in tandem with uh, James Bond. And of course, the person who's like the masseuse who's rubbing on James Bond's back is like, I know some people might look at it as like misogynistic or what have you, but it's just like, yeah, it's like it leads to a funny moment where uh, he sends her away, smacks on her behind. It's like, sorry, sorry, guy talk. Smacks on her behind and tells her, and leads her away. And it's like, yeah, they got business to handle. She doesn't need to be privy to that guy talk. And of course, probably wouldn't say that today, but you can easily imply it today, where it's like you're handling some business, and if one of the girl, like let's say it's like a record deal or something like that, and some guy brings in who's supposed to be at the meeting, and he got a couple of girls on his arm. He sends them away like, hey girl, like yo, you wait outside while we handle some stuff, and the girls will leave because like they don't need to know that any of that stuff. But you just won't say it like you know Sean Connery Bond had stated. Sorry. Spill. God dog it. Anyway, uh, he's instructed to monitor Goldfinger, as Goldfinger is in the midst of a high stakes gin rummy game with an associate who he often cheats uh, the game in order to always win. Bond notices up on the balcony somehow that he has some guy, spying. If you watch uh, Yu-Gi-Oh, it reminds me of during Battle City. Asperoba has his brothers on a high balcony with some binoculars looking at Joey's hand and relaying the message via earpiece to their brother who's dueling him in order to give him insight information on what Joey has. If you watch Yu-Gi-Oh, this is kind of sort of the same thing. And of course, Yu-Gi-Oh nor James Bond isn't the first movie or show or whatever to implement this kind of particular scene. It's always like a thing where like you're dealing with cheaters, they always got some spy looking at the opponent's hand somewhere. But Bond shows up at the hotel room. Don't know why the the maid lady, just allow him to take the key and to use it to open up the door so he can walk in. Sees Jill Masterson, cozy up to her and it's like takes the radio and uh, br- uh, uh, blackmails Goldfinger into purposely losing the game, which infuriates him because he lost a lot of money to his associate that he normally, wins, and he ends up banging the girl on top of that. So in retaliation, Goldfinger says Odd Job to knock out Bond uh, and kill the girl by painting her with gold paint from head to toe, and she died from uh, suffocation, which leads you to learning a bit of science here, where if the skin don't have anywhere to breathe, then you end up being suffocating uh, uh, through like you know well it's more so like poison more so than anything uh, skin suffocation, but I'm thinking like it's kind of like people who paint themselves silver to be like a statue, but you might run into a bit of a danger of like lead poison or something. Maybe not lead poison, but paint poisoning. But you learn that you don't leave like like a like a hole where at the base of your back where it's actually show your bare skin to have some area for your skin to breathe. Then because it would if she would have normally when people would do that, there's a chance for them to survive. But of course, Goldfinger intended her to die that way. Leads to one of the most iconic, scenes in James Bond film history, where you see just a laid out dead woman painted in gold. So this, is one of those moments where Bond feels a little guilty and wants to get back at Goldfinger because innocent woman died because of him, because he kind of messed with this guy when he's supposed to have just been monitoring him. But M has to remind him, like, keep your feelings out of this. We got a job to do, and of course we're going after Goldfinger, but don't let your personal vendetta interfere with the job. So they got to figure out how Goldfinger is smuggling gold. It was like overseas or internationally. This is where we see Bond go to Q branch, and we are introduced to the Aston Martin, one of the most iconic vehicles in film history to this day. And you see all the little tricks and tropes that comes with the Aston Martin, like the machine gun turrets, the oil slick, that kind of thing. Uh, so Bond goes to the golf resort that Goldfinger owns, and he meets up with him. Don't know why neither Odd Job or him. Well, obviously Goldfinger wouldn't recognize him, but Odd Job should at least, get a sense that he kind of looks familiar or something. I don't know. So he plays against Goldfinger in a round of golf. And of course, Goldfinger is a notorious cheater. Clearly, Bond, expected this given how he plays gin rummy. He hit his golf ball in the not the rough, but in like the high grassy area, and he lets Oddjob kind of slip an extra golf ball with his, like number one, the golf ball with the number one on it, and fall to the ground so he won't lose a stroke. But Bond is standing on his golf ball. So he decides to have a bit of fun with uh, Goldfinger. So he swap out along the way. He swap out his golf ball with one with a 7 on it. Don't know why nobody, neither Oddjob or Goldfinger notices there's a 7 and a 1 on it. But they play all the way. Bond seemingly loses, but he notices like, oh, ain't your golf ball has a 1 on it? This is a 7. Oh, so along the way, I guess I just inadvertently win. He wins money from Goldfinger, and of course, Goldfinger warns him not to interfere with his business, and shows Oddjob's skill with his hat. Was the Oddjob is the first uh uh crap. What's that Mortal Kombat character? Crap. With the hat. Crap. Kung Lao. He's like the first Kung Lao before Kung Lao was a thing. With his steel brim hat, and he knocks the head off of a statue. But thanks to a tracking device he got from Q Brands, he leaves a, a, a tracker inside Goldfinger's car, and he follows it. He follows it, and he ends up running into uh, Tilly, who is the sister of Jill, who wants to get revenge on the death of her sister. That somehow she figured out that Goldfinger was responsible. Never explains how she was led to that conclusion, but Bond ends up running into her and stops her, or at least he doesn't let on that he's like a British spy, and he ends up dropping her off. But he ends up running into her again at Goldfinger's compound, where he overhears about this plan. At least this name of the plan that Goldfinger has, called Operation Grand Slam, which kind of sounds like a meal at Denny's. But she ends up tripping an alarm. He got to rescue her, but ends up getting caught, and Oddjob kills her with his brim hat, which now kind of piles on the regret that Bond has. Now both sisters are killed under his watch. So Bond ends up capturing her, and he's in this makeshift death trap, which we don't get enough these days in action movies. The classic death trap, where the laser is just like slowly, sliding out, about to rip Bond in half. And of course, Bond ends up, of course, it leads to one of the most iconic scenes and lines from a Bond film. Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Still, like, a great back and forth. That is so much fun to hear. I don't know why. It's just that the way the lines are delivered is just so. It's so good. It's so good. But Bond fixes his way out of that death trap by saying like, "Oh well, there'll be another operative, and they already know. MI6 already knows about Operation Grand Slam." Of course, they don't know, but he's faking it till you make it, just to get out of this, because he has no way of getting out of this right now, but to fake his way through. So he's being held hostage by Goldfinger, and he meets up with Pussy Galore, who is his Goldfinger's pilot. They make their way to Kentucky, where Goldfinger is meeting up with a bunch of these mob guys who pretty much supplying Goldfinger with these materials, and of course they expect payment, but Goldfinger explained his plan to make his gold the premier source, which they could easily benefit from. But they end up clowning him. And mind you, this part got a little bit annoying. Well, these people got a little bit annoying to me because they all just very complaining. And it's like, what's going on here? What's happening? Hey, don't you jip me. It's like, this, like, God, these guys are annoying. Shut the heck up. But they end up clowning Goldfinger, and he ends up killing them via this, nerve gas that he's planning on using at Fort Knox. When explaining to Bond, who keep getting out of his cell, but ends up getting recaptured instead of making his escape or something like that, because Felix Leiter and his CIA buddies is pretty much like keeping his distance, but clearly following, because they don't got nothing to just go in with military, and because they got nothing for a warrant or anything like that. They need evidence. But it turns out, as Goldfinger explaining his plan, that because Bond thinks like, look, there's no way you can go into Fort Knox, take all the gold before the every branch of the American military comes storming in within minutes to make you put all that back. There's no way you'll get away with it. But that's where the whole nerve gas that he used on those mobsters comes into play, where he's gonna use the because Pussy Galore is an expert pilot, and she trained other female pilots. Like I said, you're thinking like, oh, there's no proper representation in movies back in the day. You got female expert pilots. Without, it's like, could they explain, because she's a skilled pilot, she trained other female pilots, but there's no girl bossifying. They're just good at what they're doing, without diminishing the skills of the men around them. Everything's believable. But he planned on using these pilots to pretty much crop dust the nerve gas over Fort Knox, killing the military that's on the base. So Goldfinger and his private army can just stroll on in. And what they plan on doing is irradiating America's gold reserve, or at least planting these kind of makeshift bombs that when these golds are sent out to certain areas, because he's also working with the Chinese. Once these gold bullion is sent out to various places in different countries, the bomb is set off, and the gold will be irradiated for the good part of 50 years, or 57 years to be exact. So making Goldfinger's gold the best gold out there and the more usable one, so it increases his wealth. That's his overall plan. So while he's going off to deal with that, he leaves Galore, Bond in Galore's hands, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. They end up hooking up, and Bond convinces her good nature to not let this happen. So she ended up switching out the nerve gas with just normal gas, which somehow Leiter and the American police and officers and military fake being asleep as they crop dust. They somehow figure out it's fake. They fake being like killed as uh, Goldfinger takes Bond and his private army to the Fort Knox area to set up the bomb inside the uh, Fort Knox, where Bond is handcuffed to it, but Goldfinger leaves Oddjob and his right hand inside with Bond to allow the thing to explode. It's like, wow, that's cold hearted. It's like two of your best men, you leaving to die, and it's not like you leaving them there because the right hand doesn't want to die. Oddjob ends up killing him. Oddjob's like, whatever. I was like, dang, y'all some cold piece of work. Which, mind you, Goldfinger is ranked, number 49 in greatest movie villains of all time. You can see why. He's just cold, man. But it's not like, what you think, Bond's going to somehow escape? It's like you locked him in the most secure safe one of the most secure safes on the planet. There's no way for him to get out. But thanks to Oddjob tossing him over the balcony to his death, the key is inside his pocket, and Bond is already on the ground floor near him. He goes, get the key, unlocks himself. Him and Oddjob fight. He tries to throw Oddjob's hat at him, but he misses. It lands against this metal gate. Of course, through one of Oddjob's throws, he ends up cutting like some wires. Sparks are flying. Bond uses that moment to electrify the gate, which is attached to the metal brim hat, which Oddjob is touching, electrocuting Oddjob, killing him. Now Bond opens up, the casket with the bomb inside, and he's kind of befuddled. He doesn't know how to disarm a bomb, which you think would be trained in, but I guess it's too sophisticated for him to figure out on his own. While Felix Leiter, CIA agents in the American military, takes out the Goldfinger's small army while Goldfinger is making his escape. And it's, this goes to show, like, Bond, as great as he is, he can't figure out everything. This shows that, yes, even he, as great as he is fallible. Nowadays, if this was like a Mary Sue, she can just like figure it out and just be done with it because she can't fail. No, he like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm going to just yank these wires. It's like, but luckily, he gets help. Even Bond needs help every once in a while. They come in at the clutch and defuse the bomb on as it counted down, and it stops at 007. What a nice little touch, mind you. Usually things like this, it leads down to like 1, 2, or 3 second marker. It leads at the 007 marker. That is great writing there. A great idea. So they send Bond on an American jet to meet up with the American president so he can give thanks personally to James Bond, but it's hijacked by Goldfinger, and he forced when he realized that Galore was assisting Bond, he forced her to fly the plane as he's holding Bond at gunpoint instead of just shooting him on the spot. He gets distracted and Bond overpowers him. The gun goes off, which is kind of a nice little setup earlier when Galore held him at gunpoint, and he says like, okay, you shouldn't shoot that thing because given like cabin pressure, it'll suck us out through the window. And you get to see that happen, and Goldfinger gets sucked out and killed uh, as Galore and Bond parachute out to safety, as Felix Leiter and American military is in their helicopter searching for them because they know they ejected. Bond. The movie ends with Bond and Galore making out on top of the parachute they used to make their way to safety, and the movie ends with like the day is saved. Yeah, so another great Bond film, very fun, very entertaining. Like I said, great sets of villains in this film. Uh, I'm curious to know what you guys think. What the if you remember this film, what are the best and worst moments in your opinion that worked for you or didn't work for you? And stay tuned for more Bond films in the coming weeks. The next one, Pierce Brosnan. There's gonna be a few Pierce Brosnan films. I selected 3 of his, and look forward to those. And I will see you guys a little bit later as I will covering some reaction videos a bit. And I might pop in to play a couple of games. Well, we'll see. But in any case, leave a comment below. I will see you guys next time. Peace.